What if I told you there's a place on our planet so deep, you could drop Mount Everest into it, and the peak would still be buried under more than a mile of water? That place is the Mariana Trench, the deepest known point in Earth's oceans. Located in the western Pacific, this trench plunges nearly 36,000 feet, almost 7 miles, straight down. To put that in perspective, if you stood at the bottom, you'd be deeper below sea level than a jet cruising 30,000 feet is above it. Just imagining that kind of depth can be unsettling. Down there, sunlight never reaches. Past 1,000 meters, the ocean is permanently dark. Imagine standing in the middle of the night, with no stars, no moon, no city lights, only endless blackness. That's what the trench looks like all the time. And in that darkness, pressure builds to crushing levels. At the very bottom, the weight of the water above is more than 1,000 times greater than the air pressing on you right now. If you held out a styrofoam cup at that depth, it would be compressed down to the size of a thimble. For humans, it would be instantly fatal. The water is just above freezing. The trench walls are jagged and unstable, and the silence is absolute. It seems like a place where nothing could survive. In fact, for much of history, scientists wondered if life could even exist there at all. It seemed too extreme, too hostile, too alien for anything to call home. But here's where things get interesting. Because in one of the harshest environments on Earth, life doesn't just exist, it thrives. And the creatures that do live there aren't just survivors. They're some of the strangest, most otherworldly beings ever discovered. So, in a place where the pressure could crush a submarine, and sunlight has never touched, you might expect nothing but emptiness. But the truth is, the bottom of the Mariana Trench is alive. And the creatures that survive there look like they've stepped right out of science fiction. One of the most common residents are amphipods, tiny crustaceans related to shrimp. You see them in shallower waters all the time. But here, some species grow to the size of prawns. That might not sound huge, but considering most amphipods in normal oceans are barely the size of your pinky fingernail, their trench cousins are giants. They spend their lives scavenging marine snow, a constant rain of dead plankton, fish, and organic debris drifting down from the surface thousands of feet above. In a world without sunlight or plants, that falling snow is the only food supply. Then there's the snailfish. It doesn't look like much, almost ghostly, with translucent skin and no scales, but it's one of the deepest dwelling fish ever found. Scientists filmed them living happily more than 26,000 feet down, where the pressure would turn a human body into pulp. They don't have swim bladders like most fish, because any gas-filled organ would collapse. Instead, their gelatinous bodies are perfectly adapted to match the crushing environment around them. And they're not alone. Deep-sea cucumbers crawl across the trench floor, feeding on whatever settles. Giant isopods, relatives of the pill bugs you see in your backyard, lurk in the shadows. Delicate jellyfish pulse through the dark water like living lanterns. Every expedition down here reveals new species, some so strange that scientists struggle to classify them. What's fascinating is how resilient life can be. These animals aren't just barely hanging on. They're thriving in a place that seems completely unlivable. And yet, as strange as these trench creatures are, they're only the beginning. Because the deeper you look, the more alien their adaptations become. When you look at the animals of the trench, it's not just their appearance that seems otherworldly. It's how they survive. Imagine trying to live in freezing water, in total darkness, while being crushed by pressure strong enough to snap steel. To make it possible, these creatures have developed adaptations that feel closer to science fiction than biology. One of the most mesmerizing is bioluminescence. Down here, glowing isn't rare, it's normal. Many animals produce their own light through chemical reactions, creating flashes of blue or green in the blackness. Some use it like a lure, tricking prey into swimming closer. Others use it as camouflage, matching the faint light from above to disappear from predators below. And in some cases, they use it to communicate, sending signals through the dark in patterns we still don't fully understand. Other trench creatures rely on their bodies themselves. Instead of hard bones or rigid shells that could shatter under pressure, many are soft, squishy, and jelly-like. That flexibility allows them to resist the crushing weight of the ocean without breaking apart. Snailfish, for example, are almost entirely gelatinous, perfectly tuned to survive in a world where strength doesn't come from armor, but from yielding. Some even produce antifreeze proteins in their blood, tiny molecules that stop ice crystals from forming, keeping them alive in water just above freezing. Without it, their cells would freeze solid in seconds. If you saw one of these creatures outside of context, you might mistake it for an alien. And in a way, that's what they are. Earth's own aliens, evolved in an environment so extreme it's more comparable to conditions on distant planets than anywhere on land. And yet, they're still not the strangest life the trench holds. Because even deeper, in the sediments at the very bottom, something even smaller, and maybe even more important, waits. If you thought the trench's fish and glowing hunters were strange, wait until you meet the smallest inhabitants. Because at the very bottom, in the sediments of Challenger Deep, scientists have discovered something even more extraordinary. Microbes that live without sunlight, plants, or even oxygen in the way we know it. These are extremophiles, microorganisms built to survive in places that would kill almost everything else. Instead of relying on photosynthesis, they eat the chemistry of the Earth itself. Some feed on hydrogen and methane seeping from the rocks. Others break down compounds from decaying organic matter that slowly drifts into the trench. In complete darkness, they've evolved to build life from what looks like nothing. Even more fascinating, these microbes aren't just surviving, they're shaping the environment around them. Studies have shown that trench microbes can consume pollutants like oil, breaking them down in ways that could one day help us clean up our own messes. They may also play a critical role in recycling carbon in the deep ocean, influencing global systems far beyond their hidden world. But maybe the most incredible part is what these tiny organisms represent. If life can exist here, in one of the harshest places on Earth, then maybe it can exist in similar conditions elsewhere. Think about the icy oceans beneath the crust of Jupiter's moon Europa, or the methane-rich seas of Saturn's moon Titan. The microbes in the Mariana Trench prove that life doesn't always need sunlight, warm temperatures, or lush forests. Sometimes, all it needs is chemistry and the ability to adapt. Every core sample pulled from the trench floor seems to reveal something new. Bacteria we've never cataloged, survival strategies we've never seen before. And it leaves scientists with a powerful question. If such tiny organisms can thrive in conditions we once thought impossible, what larger mysteries might still be hiding in the dark? Because the truth is, even with all our technology, we've only just begun to scratch the surface of the trench. And the closer we look, the clearer it becomes. This is one of the last great frontiers left on Earth. For all we've uncovered, the truth is we know almost nothing about the Mariana Trench. Less than 5% of Earth's oceans have been explored in detail, and the trench itself has only been visited a handful of times. Each expedition feels like stepping onto a new planet, because every dive reveals something no one has ever seen before. Think about that for a moment. We've mapped the surface of the Moon and Mars in greater detail than our own seafloor. Satellites can capture images of entire continents, yet the trench remains a mystery sitting right here on Earth. That gap in our knowledge is staggering and exciting. In recent years, remote-operated vehicles and crewed submersibles have brought back footage of glowing jellyfish, strange snailfish, and alien-like organisms drifting through the dark. And every time we go back, more life forms appear. Some are so fragile they can barely survive the trip to the surface, meaning the only way to truly understand them is to keep exploring their world where they live. The Mariana Trench isn't just a geological scar. It's a reminder of how much is left to discover. It shows us that Earth still holds secrets as strange, as vast, and as awe-inspiring as anything in space. Maybe even more so, because these secrets are alive, moving, and evolving beneath the waves right now. When you think about it, the trench is a frontier as great as any star system. The creatures within it may hold clues about life's resilience, about how our planet works, and even about the possibilities of life beyond Earth. And yet, there's still mysteries waiting in the dark. So the next time you look at the ocean, remember, beneath the surface lies a world we barely understand. And at the very bottom, in the depths of the Mariana Trench, could be answers to questions we haven't even thought to ask yet.